My wife wanted an open marriage. Now I have a new lover, and she regrets everything. Never once did I think I would get to this point, but here we are. My wife, Sarah, and I have been together for 10 years, but married for 8. We met in college and were each other's first and only. I honestly thought we had a unique and beautiful relationship because of that, but it appears it was just me. Some time ago, my wife began working at a new company. At first, she found it difficult to fit in because she's always been reserved. But after encouragement from me, she made friends with a group of girls, some of whom were single, divorced, or dating but not married. At first, I was happy she made friends, but then she started going out for drinks and partying. I became concerned by her change in behavior and tried to talk to her about it, but at the same time, didn't want to restrict her in any way. It started to affect our relationship in the bedroom. My wife wasn't one to initiate intimacy, but with her continued going out, she was either too tired or wasn't in the mood. At some point, her company got a new manager who my wife and her friends had taken a liking to. She began mentioning him in passing, but it got to a point where she was pointing out how he handled certain problems that didn't seem to be work-related. I questioned her on her fascination with this man, and she brushed off my concerns. She even started asking if I regretted not having more experience with women, to which I said no, because she is all I ever needed. For a moment, I saw a flash of sadness in her eyes, but she quickly changed the subject. She started mentioning open marriage as a way to spice things up. I was taken aback because my wife has never been this kind of person. To be honest, I had first refused and questioned if this had anything to do with the new manager, to which she denied but said she felt like she missed out but, at the same time, didn't want to lose me, so this was a safer option. I wondered if she was playing with fire, then reluctantly and naively agreed. For a year, my wife went on dates, had some one-night stands, and, as if I didn't see it coming, somehow ended up in some kind of relationship with that manager Charles. On the other hand, I had a few dates but no one-night stands because it frequently felt wrong to me. My wife would ask if I was fine, but it really wouldn't change her behavior. At some point, I felt the love I had for her was gone, and it was killing me inside. I ended up going on a date with an amazing woman Young-soon who had migrated from South Korea. Of course, this led to more dates until we were intimate. I honestly never had intimacy like I had with this woman. I never knew a woman could be so giving and make one feel so desirable. At first, my wife thought it was cute, but as the months went by, she began questioning my relationship with my lover. I promptly pointed out that this was her idea and that she was in a relationship with the manager I was concerned about. She was silent. She looked like she wanted to say something but held her tongue. She began coming home early to surprise me with dinner and to get the house extra clean. She also started coming to my workplace to drop off lunch and began to initiate intimacy in the bedroom. Honestly, if it wasn't for her opening our marriage, all this would have had me jumping for joy. I barely gave in to her attempts at intimacy, and when I did, it was simply to get it over with. Something in me towards my wife had died, so it didn't hit the same. I asked what brought this change in her. The response I got was that she wanted to show me that she loves me and is happy with me. I never intended to, but I burst out laughing. I asked, "What about your little group of friends, your manager lover, or your one-night stands?" She didn't respond that day and simply went to bed in tears. The next day, I got home to find her waiting for me. She told me she wanted to close our marriage. She said this whole experience was a horrible mistake, and she regretted everything and wanted us to focus on our relationship again. I told her to be honest with me and explain what inspired all this in the first place. Wouldn't you know it, it was her group of friends who planted the idea, based on their numerous intimate exploits. When her manager came into the picture, he surprisingly supported that lifestyle and encouraged my wife to live free. Apparently, it started as an emotional affair but only got physical after the marriage was opened. She described it as being drunk behind the wheel of a speeding car. Thrilling and intoxicating but ultimately disastrous. She admitted she now saw she never needed a comparison and that what we had was truly unique and special. But now she felt like she had murdered our marriage and any chance of a life together. I told her that I might not ever be able to see her as my wife again. This made her break down in front of me. I simply held her in silence as she cried until she fell asleep in my arms on the couch. She has since left her job and cut off contact with all of her friends and her manager. But I haven't cut contact with my lover. Quite frankly, she makes me feel like a man. The truth is, I don't know what to do in this situation. I would love to get that special feeling back with my wife if possible, but my lover basically saved me when I was at my lowest. Feeling conflicted, I decided to seek therapy. The therapist seemed unbiased and eager to help. During the very first session, my wife took the opportunity to lay it all out. She confessed that her group of friends made her wonder if she had missed out on something because she was committed to her first boyfriend and had no other experiences. After the new manager started approaching her, some of these friends encouraged her to see where it goes and that this was her chance to discover herself. She felt guilty but didn't act on it until one of her divorced friends suggested an open marriage as a loophole. They told her some couples come out stronger because of it. Regrettably, she convinced me to open our marriage, and her so-called adventure began. She described it as intoxicating but lacking the substance of what we had built over the years. She admitted she told herself it was an adventure but could see the hurt in my eyes. The gravity of her actions didn't hit her until she noticed the change in me. She suddenly felt a pit in her stomach and started experiencing panic attacks. When she went back to her friends for advice, they brushed it off, telling her my reaction was normal and that she should just enjoy her freedom. When she realized these people were toxic and a threat to our marriage, she cut ties with them and tried to win me back. I didn't share much during the first session, but I told the counselor about my lover. The counselor said no resolution could be reached with my lover still in the picture and suggested we book another appointment. During our second therapy session, I decided to ask my wife if she was absolutely sure nothing physical had happened before we opened our marriage. At first, she looked away, avoiding eye contact, and begged me not to make her say it, claiming it would destroy us. But after some pressing, she broke down and confessed that it wasn't physical, but she and her manager had engaged in intimate acts in each other's presence. She justified it by saying it wasn't technically cheating because they hadn't physically touched. I was floored. Even the counselor seemed taken aback. My wife started shaking and hyperventilating, tears and snot streaming down her face as she apologized profusely. She got on her knees, clutching my legs, begging for forgiveness. Asked her what changed her view of the manager. She admitted that one evening, as she was leaving a meeting, she overheard him talking about her to a colleague. He boasted about how easy it had been to seduce her, joking that she was living proof you can't trust the quiet ones. When the colleague asked if he actually liked her, he laughed and said she was just a pleasant distraction and that he had no intention of leaving his fiancée. He even commented that he felt bad for me but said, "You snooze, you lose." Hearing this crushed her. She realized she had been nothing more than a fleeting amusement to him, and the full weight of her betrayal hit her. She said she vomited in the parking lot afterward, consumed by guilt and shame. I asked her if she had ever loved him and when she stopped loving me. Through tears, she said she never stopped loving me, which made it even harder for me to comprehend her choices. She thought what she had with him was love but now realized how foolish she had been. She begged me to move away with her and start over, just the two of us, as it was meant to be. But I told her I needed time to process everything and that it wouldn't be fair to my lover, who had been there for me when I felt abandoned. She broke down again, clinging to me as if I was about to disappear. The counselor suggested time apart might help us both heal. Reluctantly, she agreed. I asked her what changed her view of the manager. She admitted that one evening, as she was leaving a meeting, she overheard him talking about her to a colleague. He boasted about how easy it had been to seduce her, joking that she was living proof you can't trust the quiet ones. When the colleague asked if he actually liked her, he laughed and said she was just a pleasant distraction and that he had no intention of leaving his fiancée. He even commented that he felt bad for me but said, "You snooze, you lose." Hearing this crushed her. She realized she had been nothing more than a fleeting amusement to him, and the full weight of her betrayal hit her. She said she vomited in the parking lot afterward, consumed by guilt and shame. I asked her if she had ever loved him and when she stopped loving me. Through tears, she said she never stopped loving me, which made it even harder for me to comprehend her choices. She thought what she had with him was love but now realized how foolish she had been. She begged me to move away with her and start over, just the two of us, as it was meant to be. But I told her I needed time to process everything and that it wouldn't be fair to my lover, who had been there for me when I felt abandoned. She broke down again, clinging to me as if I was about to disappear. The counselor suggested time apart might help us both heal. Reluctantly, she agreed. After that emotional therapy session, we returned home, and I started packing my things to take the time apart that the counselor suggested. As I was gathering my belongings, my wife received a video call on her laptop from one of her former friends in tears. I overheard parts of the conversation, and the revelation left me speechless. The friend revealed that after my wife resigned from her job, she and the manager began a fling of their own. What made it even more shocking was that this friend had a boyfriend she claimed to love and wanted to build a future with. The fling was purely out of curiosity, influenced by the same group dynamics that had initially enticed my wife. To add to the chaos, the friend had a pregnancy scare. When she confided in the manager, he accused her of trying to baby trap him and distanced himself entirely. Her boyfriend, however, found incriminating emails between her and the manager discussing the potential pregnancy and confronted her. This led to her entire relationship imploding. She called my wife in a panic, seeking advice, but my wife seemed too overwhelmed by her own situation to console her. I couldn't take any more. I simply turned and left the room, letting my wife deal with her friend's drama alone. I left the house and moved into a small apartment to clear my head. During this time, I consulted a divorce lawyer at my brother's urging, just to ensure I was prepared for any eventuality. Since moving out, My wife has been trying every tactic to win me back. Before I left, she tried initiating intimacy multiple times. On one occasion, when I refused, she broke down and angrily yelled, "What does your lover do for you that I can't?" Her question caught me off guard. I simply shook my head and responded, "If you still can't see the answer after everything that's happened, it's clear where our marriage is headed." Then I left. Her attempts to rectify the damage, quitting her job, cutting off her toxic friends, and distancing herself from the manager, came too late. My lover, who had been my solace during this ordeal, made me feel like a man again, like I was respected and desired. It's hard to ignore how she was there for me when my wife wasn't. My wife deeply regrets the choices she made. She's confessed to wishing she could go back in time and undo it all, knowing she made catastrophic mistakes. But life doesn't offer a rewind button. Now we're both dealing with the fallout of her decisions, and I'm left trying to decide what's best for my future.